The key to beating the Ravens is having the right 53 on the field. Who is that? Today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back in, everybody. Hope you enjoyed your holiday weekend, but it's back to the grind because football is on. We are brought to you today by Gametime. Download that Gametime app, create your account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL. You're going to get $20 off of your first ticket purchase. Terms apply, but download Gametime today. It is the time for Gametime. I'm excited about this because we actually get to talk about this game. A couple of things have come to light over the holiday weekend that are going to make some tweaks here. We are going to get into that. This is Chris Clark over here, the man at Chiefs Corner. You can get that sub down below or go to kcchiefscorner.com. You get all of his writing. He'll be doing a little bit more, I'm guessing, in the next couple of weeks. So make sure that you're subscribed. And if you get there, make sure you go over to NFL33.com, another Substack by being my staff over there, looking at the rest of the league so you know what's going on. And then get to RGR Football. You can get it all the time, everywhere we are, and that is it. And you can get us here on this channel 5 days a week for free. And we're going to have a bonus episode for you this week. So make sure that you are liked and subbed right here on this YouTube channel, over on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. Anywhere you can get us for free, you're going to get us 5 days plus. And the text line's where we drop stuff. You're going to know what happens there before anything. Chris is banging that out every single day, 816-357-8781, getting the action there. Now, it is prime time at this point. Patrick Mahomes, back-to-back champion versus Lamar Jackson, kind of retooled, kind of renewed. That's coming up later in the show. There is a problem on the defense they have to address, and they've been making moves to do so. We're going to outline that and what it looks against the Ravens on the D-line coming up soon. But we start where everybody has to start. It's about the weapons. It's about this whole offseason and continuing to provide Patrick Mahomes the support that he needs on the weapon side. Now, a couple of those things are as expected. Hollywood Brown not going to play in this game. Fair enough. We felt that was coming. We knew that they could bake that in. So it falls down to the rest of the wide receiver core. In particular, Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, playing off of Travis Kelce. That trio is going to have to be very, very in tune. Everything else will flow from there, including when Juju Smith-Schuster gets on the field, what Mecole Hardman does, what is going to happen down the line with Sky Moore, who I do think is going to be used in the return game. I certainly hope so because I think he had a good preseason there. But it's about upgrading the weapons so that you can go out and be more efficient when you have the ball against the Ravens this time rather than the AFC Championship. Who stands out to you, and what do you think the philosophy is?
Wait a second. We actually get to talk about football now? Real football? Is it that time of year? Are we finally there?
Yes, sir.
I'm ecstatic. Sorry, I really am excited about this game. I'm just excited about NFL football being back. This is going to be something that I cannot wait for. Thursday night cannot get here soon enough. When you start looking at the wide receivers, obviously Hollywood Brown being out, that's going to hurt. But the thing that we saw that is going to be a huge deal to me in this next game is what do they do with Worthy? How often do they try to get him involved early? And what do they do with him? Are they going to use him and try to pull the defense back? Are they going to try that? Or are they going to use him in some of the shorter and underneath stuff that he can still do, even though he is a speed guy? So I think there's a lot of different things that are going to play into this and the way the offense is going to run. The other thing I'm really looking forward to, and you talk about, Sky Moore, when is he going to get involved? When's Hardman going to get involved? When's Watson going to be involved? All those guys are going to matter. But the other guy and the other one that's going to be big in this game, I think, is Rashee Rice. If you go back and you watch the game against Baltimore that he should have had a touchdown in the AFC Championship game. That was a fair play, and there should not have been a penalty called, and should not have been a hold to call it back. That should have been a touchdown. But the more important thing is the hold didn't spring Rice. So what I'm trying to point out is I believe that was almost a 40-yard play. That completely changes the way that you look at that Baltimore game because it pretty much put the Baltimore game out of reach if he gets that touchdown right there. So it changes it in that aspect, but it also shows you what he's capable of with the ball in his hands. If he can find a way to get to space, he has the speed to outrun people. He has the ability to shake people, and he is hard enough to bring down that it's going to make a big difference and it's going to matter.
Yeah, and that's what they have to feed. Take what they give you and then feed it until they change. I think the change at the defense coordinator, we're going to talk about that later in the week here, folks, will be significant. But on the Chiefs side, on the offensive side, it's not just the weapons, it's getting other players back as well. Everyone was a full participant on Monday. That includes Joe Tooney. That includes Wanye Morris. That includes everybody that you have to have back. Obviously, Hollywood Brown is not, but that's okay. We knew that was coming. James Winchester also back at practice. So that tells you that they're ready to go.
Yeah, Taylor's not even on the injury report. That's all I wanted to say because he was injured beforehand. Right. So he's back. He's good to go.
Fair.
Everybody practiced. That's a fantastic deal. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire went to NFI, which is an interesting move. I'm curious to see if they make a move before Thursday to bring somebody up to the active roster or if they just leave it open for the rest of this week.
Yeah, I'm interested as well. But, we talked about this week before last, folks, on Cutdowns, that this was a possibility, the NFI list for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, due to what he's been going through and honestly, his lack of availability. And if that is to spring up this week, you certainly don't have time to mess around. So putting him on the NFI is, I believe, a 4-week minimum. Is that right, Chris?
It is. Yeah, 4 weeks.
Okay.
He's out.
So currently it is what honestly I had hoped for. It's Isaiah, it's Carson, and it's Samaje. And boom, you're ready to roll. That tells me that P. Ryan is ready.
No, I don't think they have a choice. I think they would have had to make the move regardless. And I think that this is going to mean that P. Ryan is going to get a lot more snaps than they ever wanted him to possibly get week 1. But I think that the fun thing about him is you look at it came out today in the pressers that Andy Reid is the one that reached out to P. Ryan first. And P. Ryan ignored it because it was a Philly number. And then he listened to the voicemail and he called him back immediately. And that tells you what Andy Reid thinks of the guy, because I don't think Andy Reid makes those free agency calls first. I think that's usually a Brett Beach deal. But this is a great fit for Kansas City. And it may be something that takes a couple of weeks to get ready and to get going the right direction. I'm not saying that he can't be effective in some regards, but I don't think he's going to be fully effective until probably week 3 or 4 when he has a full range of the offense. And you're going to see Pacheco play probably a lot more this week and probably next week than they ever intended him to play, because I think they wanted to split a little bit more with Clyde.
Yeah, I think that's probably correct. But as that comes down, that feeds into everything else. You got to get the D-line right as well. Right now, there's an issue in my eyes. I'm going to tell you what it is specifically about who, what, and where, and it has to do with the depth chart coming up next. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Now they have a chance for you to do exactly what I do every single week. They have something a little bit different for you right now. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet just $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube base plan account, all you got to do is watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. No problem. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. There's a lot of news out there, and if you want it all, you need to get it from Locked On. It's a brand new Locked On NFL show. If you guys remember when I was doing the daily there, me and my guy Tyler Rowland held down the Locked On NFL show. He's back doing the morning version. It is now twice a day. Our guy Tony Wiggins, who you've seen on our draft live streams, a lot of fun, and he's going to give you the real deal in the afternoons for the Locked On NFL show. Make sure you go get subscribed today on this NFL YouTube channel or wherever you get podcasts. Where I want to get podcasts is somebody telling me that this D-line is going to be okay. Lot of maneuvers around it. Depth chart came out. It is not Derrick Nnadi starting next to Chris Jones. It is Tershawn Wharton as it's listed right now tonight on Monday. That is a very, very big difference from what we've seen in the past, especially knowing that you have Derrick Henry bearing down on you in this game. And if you go back to last season, there is a lot of thought, including me, that if they had continued to run the ball, they may have had a chance to win that championship game. I think they're going to run all night long, and I think they're going to be dedicated to it. This has me a bit concerned. What do you think?
Yes, I don't see a huge concern in it. I understand where you're coming from on the depth chart. I agree with you. I think that's a problem when you look at it from the run stopping perspective. But this is a passing league for the most part. So to me, if they feel like, and this is, I guess, in my mind, the way I'm looking at it, if they feel like Wharton is their best defensive tackle behind Chris Jones, I'm okay with them putting him as the second starter. Is it going to be something that they're going to use on a regular basis? Probably not. I would imagine, especially in this game, it's either going to be Pennell or it's going to be Noddy. You're going to have one of those two guys that are going to be in that game on a regular basis, especially early in the game on rundowns. You have to be able to get Derrick Henry on the ground, and you have to be able to get it to where he's not getting a full steam ahead getting into the secondary. So to me, if they really feel like Wharton is their second best defensive tackle, I have no problem with it. I understand from the perspective of stopping the run and stopping Derrick Henry, it makes sense to be a little worried about it, but I don't think they're going to put Wharton out there expecting him to stop Derrick Henry on the regular. I think they're going to look at him as more of a pass rushing guy, and yes, he'll be in there some, but I think that they're going to go with the additional girth, I guess you would say, on the defensive line because you're going to need it in this game.
Yeah. Well, you definitely will. And that's what it comes to for me. Like in this current lineup, I think the best scenario for the Chiefs, and we'll talk about this in our game preview show coming up later in the week, folks. Tomorrow's Matt Derrick. Then it's the crossover with the insiders from Locked On in Baltimore. And then we're going to give you our game preview on top of it. So be prepared for that. But this only works if the Chiefs get out to a lead and you force Lamar to throw. If they're able to stay in their run offense, it becomes a problem. And I think we see that by the way that they've shuffled the practice squad in order to possibly make an elevation. What did you make of those moves? And I'll just go ahead and get his name out there. It's Tui Piloto that joins the practice squad. A sizable, I believe, listed at 317. A guy that can play 1, can play 3, can play 0, can do it all.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting move. I think it's they're adding more girth, and I think that this is probably the time to do it. You have Baltimore up, and then you have Cincinnati on deck. And Cincinnati, it doesn't have the running back situation that Baltimore does, but they can still be formidable if you can get them to a point where they have to throw the ball. That's probably a bit where they only can throw the ball, and you stop the running game. That's probably going to help you with Cincinnati. So I do think that that makes sense. The big thing to me, and the other thing that I think plays into this, is I don't think Derrick Nottie is still healthy. Yes, he had a full practice. Yes, I'm sure he'll have a full practice the next couple of days, but I don't think he's fully back yet. And whether or not that changes with him, taking over Wharton on the depth chart when he is fully healthy, I don't know. But I still don't think he's 100% from where he should be. And I do think that that could play into this depth chart thing. I do think that Kansas City's got to look at bringing up some depth and some real run stuffers in the middle because this is not a game that you can go light. The greatest thing that is happening in Kansas City with this game is that it is happening in September. It's not going to be a cold game because that would hurt even more. So this is already going to be a physical enough game without it. And it's going to be something you're going to have to battle through. And don't forget, I mean, you talk about Derrick Henry, but we talked about this yesterday. Baltimore has some serious road graders on the right side of their offensive line. Huge guys. That is also going to play into who plays and who is able to go out there and be successful.
Yeah, I agree. And the reason I bring up Tui Piloto, new acquisition signed to the practice squad from Philadelphia. I know that shocks no one, but played a lot of nose type snaps for them. I think it was a total of 178 last year. A rotational player, let's be honest. But it's interesting to me, it wasn't just a simple acquisition. In that transaction, they also let go both Matt Dickerson and Pharrell from the practice squad. I believe still both available. We'll see if they come back after week 1. But that leaves just the new guy, Tui Piloto, and Lovett as your call-ups at this position group. Do you think we could see both guys elevated on game day to try to fix that rotation if they are nervous about it, especially given Noddy's injury status?
I don't think you'll see both. I think if you're going to see one, you're going to see the guy from the Eagles, and I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because I will screw it up. So just going to say that up front. But I do think that you could see him elevated. That would make a lot of sense. I also would not be shocked if they go with another corner. It's an elevated corner in this game because you're looking at the depth that they've had this entire preseason, and they've still got two guys that are on the injury report in Najee Johnson and Joshua Williams. So I do think, and I don't think I saw Watson wasn't on there from what I remember. So
Yeah.
looks like he's fully good to go. So it wouldn't shock me if they bring up another corner. Maybe they bring up somebody that can step in and help for this game specifically. But it would make a lot of sense to bring up a defensive lineman. Gonna be curious to see what they do because you talk about a guy like your boy from your defensive tackle that you really liked, and I'm drawing a blank on his name right now.
Fabian Lovett.
Yeah, love it. Thank you. I just don't see them throwing him into this game, mainly because I don't think he's ready for this level of competition and who he's going to be going up against in the running game. I think that he needs a little
Yeah.
bit of work, and I think that he could get there. I just don't think he's ready for it right now.
Agreed. That would signal desperation to me as well. They do have Keith Taylor and Nick Jones on here as the corners, and I do think you can get some teams work out of them as well. So that's more likely in my book. The things that are likely are also that this is going to be a battle of the quarterbacks. It's Mahomes versus Jackson, a new Jackson, and I do want to emphasize that that's coming up next. Getting your tickets to Arrowhead just got easier. Whether you're looking for that week 1 against the Ravens, week 2 against the Bengals, or even week 5 when they come back in October for the New Orleans Saints, they have a new feature at Gametime called Gametime Picks. And it takes all the guesswork out of getting your tickets. It makes it easier to filter out the fluff and get the incredible deals on seats that you don't want to waste time searching for through those thousands of tickets. Get Gametime Picks. The curation makes it easy to get all the sports, concerts, comedy, and theater, anything that you're looking for. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create your account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, create the account, use our code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $20 off of your first ticket purchase at Gametime. It's last-minute tickets. It is lowest prices, and it's always guaranteed. This show is brought to you by BetterHelp. With your schedule right now, the kids' activities, back to school, everything going on, the big work projects, and everything else in your life, it's easy to let your priorities slip. Even when you know what makes you happy and that you want to prioritize, it's hard to make it happen sometimes. When you feel like you don't have any time for yourself, it's time to make that happen. Therapy can help you with that. If you are thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's certainly geared toward everything that you're looking for, entirely online, suited to your schedule, and can be flexible to match what you need. You just fill out a questionnaire, you get matched with an actual therapist. And if not, if you don't gel or you want to switch therapists at any time, you can do that free of charge. Never skip another therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon. You're going to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/lockedon. Folks, make sure that you check out not only the Locked On Podcast Network, because we're free every day on every show all the time, but also check out Casey Chiefs Corner for everything Chris is doing. NFL 33 for what I'm looking at, including my coming preview this week of this game, and RGR Football, where we break it down from a whole different angle on your Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the primetime matchup, as it should be in this particular case, some weeks I disagree, but it will be quarterback versus quarterback as all the talking heads go this week, because I do think Lamar Jackson is not the top tier of 4 players, but I do think he's the tier right below. And I think that he is out for blood in this particular game because they had it, in my opinion, the way they wanted it. They're running well. He was able to move around the pocket enough to get things done. And then it all fell to him. There are people in Baltimore that blame Lamar Jackson for losing that game and a trip to the Super Bowl last season. I can't argue with them. So I think not only does he want revenge, but I also think that's part of what drove him all season long to lose weight, to be able to be nimble again. I think he's going to look to run on RPOs in particular. I think they're going to add new wrinkles. The Chiefs have to be ready for everything in when they prepare for Lamar Jackson.
100% agree. I have to ask really quick, who are your top 4? You're saying he's not on the top 4. Who are your top 4?
And for me, it's Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, and Burrow.
Okay. I kind of figured that's where you're going. We will have a conversation to have about Burrow for next week that I am curious about on your take on that. But what I will say is when you look at this Lamar Jackson deal, and I agree with you, I think there are people out there that blame him for this loss, and rightfully so in some regards. Him throwing into triple coverage is not a way you're going to win that game. And You go back and you look at the stats, and yeah, he beat Mahomes stats wise. He had more passing yards than Mahomes did. Who cares? Who won the game at the end? That's all that really matters. I mean, you can talk about stats all you want, and you can talk about, Mahomes 9 times out of 10, he's probably going to win in yardage when it comes to going against other QBs. In this case, he didn't. I don't really care because they started to run the ball. They were more effective running the ball. It was a cold game to begin with, and you need to be successful any way you can. So to me, I don't really care that Mahomes didn't have the best stats. In the end, Mahomes took the team to the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl, and now has 2 of them back to back, and 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 3 Super Bowls in 4 tries. I mean, Lamar hasn't even been to the Super Bowl yet. So I'm not saying that really plays into this matchup. And you're right, Jackson is going to take a huge he's going to have a huge chip on his shoulder for this matchup. And that's a big thing. But I think one thing that we're overlooking, or that people are overlooking from last year, is Kansas City came out and they lost to Detroit. Kansas City came out, they didn't have Chris Jones. They didn't have Travis Kelce. Look at their wide receiver core compared to the wide receiver core now. I know we're talking Mahomes and Jackson, but it all plays into it. This isn't the same team that it was last year. Mahomes has a much better offensive staff around it, or offensive unit around him, like we talked about in the first segment. And I think that's going to play a big advantage to him. And to an extent, I would say Jackson's weapons have probably gotten or about the same. I don't know that I would really call them better than what they had last year. And you're in a situation where you say Lamar Jackson has gone and lost some weight to try to get maybe a little bit nimbler. That also puts him at risk for injury. So is he going to run a lot? Yeah, probably. I don't know that he'll get hurt in this game, but I would be shocked if he plays all 17 games for the Ravens this year.
Okay, that's fair. And you have a good point about the weapons. The running backs have gotten older. Gus Edwards has gone in place of Derrick Henry. Now, Derrick's been much more successful. So I see that as a wash, if not a slight upgrade, to tell you the truth, despite the age there. But it is Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar. There's your top 3 on the wideouts. And Zay had a good game. I'll talk about him later in the week. They are going to have to pay special attention to him. But they also run through Mark Andrews, much like the Chiefs offense runs through Travis Kelce. Andrews has been hurt all preseason. So, yes, he, like Joe Thuney, are going to be back in. They've been waiting for this game. But I can't say that he's going to be 100%. So limiting him, especially with Drew Tranquill, in my opinion, or if they flip it and they try to go strong and really manhandle him off the line with Leo Chanel, I think you have to give enough attention. That's going to be part of the game plan coming up later in the week.
Yeah, and I think that's a great game plan. Go attack him, go make him uncomfortable, and take away one of Lamar's favorite weapons. So to me, I think that would be a winning game plan. We'll talk about that when we get into our game plan show, which is going to be on Thursday this week. Obviously, a little bit different than normal. It'll normally be on Friday. But you look at how this game is going to play out, and you look at the offensive weapons that Mahomes has, and even without Hollywood Brown, he still has a brand new wide receiver who I think is probably better than, I would say, the other 2 guys, other than maybe Zay Flowers on Baltimore. Just from what I've seen in the preseason, I think he has the speed and the knowledge of the offense, and the knowledge of being able to read defenses enough to know what he's supposed to do on specific routes that's going to be very important in this offense. I do think that he has a better chance of being more successful than the other 2 Ravens wide receivers. And a healthy Travis Kelce, as long as he stays healthy this week, I think you're in a much different situation than you were last year. And that doesn't even get into a guy like Wiley that we haven't talked about at all, that didn't really show much in the preseason. And I have to wonder, to an extent, with everything that he did in camp and everything that he did in OTAs, if him not doing a lot in preseason, him not being a target in preseason, was something that they did on purpose. Because I've seen that guy at training camp. He can catch. He can make plays. I expect him to be a red zone threat, and I expect it in week 1.
I'm happy to hear it. We're going to break it all down with Matt Derrick tomorrow from Chiefs Digest. After he's seen the guys been in the locker room, gotten us the inside scoop, he will be here. Then we will cross it over with the Baltimore Locked On show, and then we will give you our game preview. So a lot of content coming for you this week. Thanks for being with us. Make sure you like and sub so that you get it all when it comes out. We appreciate you, and we're just here to say, welcome to football. The real thing is on our doorstep. Get